I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Village of Arlington Heights Board of Trustees for September 6, 2022. And I would like all of you to please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The village clerk would please call the roll.
Trustee Bertucci.
Here.
Trustee Baldino. Trustee Grasse.
Here.
Trustee Scaletta. Trustee Schwingbeck.
Here.
Trustee Tinaglia.
Here.
Trustee Canty.
Here.
President Pro Tem LaBedz.
Here. We have a quorum of the board here tonight. Next is the approval of minutes of the August 15th, 2022 Village Board. As any trustees have any changes to be made? Any passes on this?
I'd like to pass.
Trustee Tinaglia passes. Then is there a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Opposed? I think Trustee Schwingbeck moved approval and Trustee Canty seconded that. So, thank you. The motion carries. And next, I'm going to call on Trustee Bertucci for the approval of the accounts payable.
I move approval of the warrant register for the check dated 8/30/2022 in the amount of $2,303,178.47.
Second.
Thank you. It was moved by Trustee Bertucci and seconded by Trustee Tinaglia. Any discussion? Anyone from the audience have anything to discuss? Nope. Roll call, please.
Trustee Bertucci.
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia.
Yes.
Trustee Canty.
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck.
Yes.
Trustee Grasse.
Yes.
President Pro Tem LaBedz.
Yes. The motion carries. There are no recognitions and presentations this evening, and there is no public hearing this evening, so we will move on to citizens to be heard. Anyone, I have a number of blue cards that are for items that are not on the agenda. Certainly people can speak on items on the agenda at those times too. Please, for each speaker, if you would remember, it's 3 minutes. And then if anyone else in the room wishes to speak on an item not on the agenda and hasn't filled out a blue card, please do so at the back of the room and bring it forward. So we will start with James Kame. I hope I pronounced that right.
Yes, you did.
Thank you.
I spoke to you this weekend.
Yes, you did.
I'm here because of Pet Suites. I sent out emails to several of you, and I really appreciate the fact that on a weekend, a few of you got back to me. I hated to bother you on the weekend. We had a horrible weekend again because of Pet Suites. The barking is unbelievable, and who would have thought barking dogs would disrupt your life so much? And they have. And it's been that way all summer. We have not had a good summer. I understand today that citations were issued to the Pet Suites, and I appreciate that. My concern is that what will happen is this is going to be a revolving door that we just keep issuing citations, and they pay their fine if they're fined, and then we have business as usual. I think what needs to be done is that outdoor kennel needs to be closed. It's unbelievable the noise that generates, and we simply cannot sleep. It starts a little after 6 in the morning, and it goes on all day. And there's just no peace in our own homes. The only time we get peace is when we leave our homes. And if we go on vacation or something, we dread coming back because we have the barking dogs all day. If you look at this location, it's right next to homes. And when I read the proposals in the Planning Commission, you talk about bushes and plastic fences abating the noise. It doesn't happen. There's several dogs there. This weekend, they had 60 dogs there. And talking to the manager, you approved up to 300 dogs at that facility. If that's true, that's unbelievable. There's no way we can live like that. So many people are pushed to their end in the neighborhood. We can't take it anymore. And it's sad that on a weekend, a holiday weekend, I have to reach out to the village board because we've been working with the planning department, we've been working with the police department, and the police department hasn't wanted to issue any citations, even though there's 2 ordinances on the books specifically that applies to barking dogs and nuisances of that nature. They said everything goes over to the village because of the planning commission. They have to issue citations through code enforcement. The police department's there all the time. Code enforcement isn't. When we need action on a Saturday or a Sunday or a holiday, we need the police department. We need somebody to go over there and tell them to quiet those dogs so we can sleep and we can enjoy our homes. We couldn't be in our backyards, have a cup of coffee in the morning. We can't sleep. You can't do anything. We have people over and they sit in the backyard and they laugh. You live in Arlington Heights to put up with this? It's absolutely ridiculous. And I appreciate that the code enforcement is taking some action now. Our quality of life was absolutely destroyed this summer, and it's unbelievable. And I hope that the board, I mean, when you look at it, that place probably needs to go. Am I on my 3 minutes, or?
I can't see the clock, so.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right, I'll finish up. Just because of the reaction of the management and everything at Pet Suites, I don't see them wanting to change anything, so the village board has to take some type of action.
Right,
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kim. There are 2 more people who want to speak, although I would also like the village manager to say, but I'll let the people in the audience who wish to speak do so now, and then I'll turn it over to Mr. Recklaus. So Patricia Kim, if you'd come forward and remember the 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Tricia Kame, and I wanted to express my disappointment and anger concerning Pet Suites. Pet Suites should have never have been allowed to occupy their current location. I sent emails voicing my opposition during the online board meeting. However, the board still approved the license, and it has been horrible since the business opened. As a person experiencing chronic health issues, my main avenue to good health is quality sleep. I have not had that all summer, and as a result, I am experiencing physical and mental anguish, added stress, and moodiness. My health condition does cause headaches, extreme fatigue, and brain fog, which have become worse since Pet Suites opened. I can also become bedridden if these symptoms continue on a regular basis. And I have a hard time falling asleep at night, and I have a very hard time going back to sleep if I'm woken up. I teach kindergarten. I have 2 classes I teach daily, and they are very energetic 5- and 6-year-olds that I need to be on my A game. I work every weekend on homework, on lesson plans, on assessments that I need to complete for the state of Illinois. I usually spend several hours a weekend doing schoolwork. I can't concentrate. I can't get my work done. I was not able to do that this past weekend because I was woken up on Saturday morning at 6:10 a.m. and 6:20 on Sunday, and I could not get back to sleep. I'm tired. I can't focus. It's ridiculous. I'm miserable. I was miserable the whole weekend. My son came in. I never get to see him, and he was here for 24 hours, and I could not enjoy quality time with him. If this continues at Pet Suites, I'm not going to be able to function at work. We have shortage in subs in our district and across the state. I have only so many sick days that I can take. I can't take it anymore, honestly. I am a dog lover. I am a dog owner. And my dog is even being woken up daily by Pet Suites as well. So I beg you, please, close the outdoor area at Pet Suites. Please. I've reached my breaking point, and I just can't do this anymore. So please, I appreciate your consideration in this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Kame. And also speaking on this matter is Mariana Correa.
Good evening. My name is Mariana Correa, and I also have complaints regarding pet suites on Rand Avenue. My house is adjacent to that facility, and I have 2 young daughters in elementary school. I also work in elementary school myself, and we are being woken up very early in the morning. My daughters at 6:10, 6:20 a.m. are being woken up, and they're not getting a good rest. You know, they're being cranky before the school day is over. And I can't have them like that. You know, children need their quality sleep. I bet everyone knows that. Also, I don't think anyone sitting in this room would like to be woken up by barking dogs at that time in the morning, Saturday, Sunday also. You know, it's really hard on us. We understand that, you know, these places need to be open, but at the place where they are, it's not a good place to have an open space for dogs to be out all day and barking. It's just very detrimental to our mental health too. And, you know, I'm voicing also the concerns of my neighbors, and we're just about had it. And I don't think we can take any longer of this, and we have put complaints, and I don't know what else can be done in order for this to stop. And I thank you for your time, and I hope you take us into consideration for this. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming forward, all 3 of you. I'd like to turn it over to Village Manager Recklouse for some comment, please.
Thank you, President Pro Tem LaBedz. So, you know, first off, I just want to note that the zoning approval that was granted to Pet Suites back in 2020 actually gives the village substantial leeway in regulating the outdoor dog area, and it would give the village the ability to require its complete removal if that was the will of the village. However, prior to taking that step, we want to give them the opportunity to address those issues through alternative means. We acknowledge that this is an issue, and this is a serious issue for quality of life of those residents. Citations have been issued. They've been giving a September 13th adjudication date, but prior to that, staff from the planning department had been working with the ownership, and the ownership has engaged a contract with an acoustical engineering firm to look at ways that the sounds could be mitigated. They also paid the firm extra at our request to expedite that process so we can get to the solution quicker. And we're expecting to hear back from them any day now on that. Staff is going to review any study received and work with the mitigation improvements to reduce the sound to an acceptable level. And if that can't be done, then we will look at taking further means to eliminate this issue for the residents. And we know that this is very much taxing the patience of the residents in this neighborhood. That is not lost on us. We do want to give the business owner the opportunity to correct this on their own, because we do want them to be successful, but we do have the authority to eliminate this dog area if we determine that that's the only way through this.
Thank you, Mr. Recklouse. So I would say please keep us posted. I'm sure the residents will also keep us posted, and we would appreciate that, and are hoping for a resolution that is acceptable as quickly as possible.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Next, blue card is for Martin Bauer. And you're reminded of the 3 minutes? Now I have a timer.
Good evening. I'd like to move from dogs to bears. Trustees, I'm here to voice my opposition to any plan that the board might have, current or future, to offer up any financial assistance to the Chicago Bears in association with their potential development of the Arlington Park site. I am not associated with any group. I'm not speaking on behalf of the Americans for Prosperity or any other group. I'm here on my own, although I am convinced that I speak on behalf of a large number of citizens of Arlington Heights. I commend all of you on the good stewardship of our public resources and on the development of Arlington Heights. I've lived here for 25 years. Arlington Heights has come a long ways. You have done a good job, and I now call on you to maintain that fiscal discipline you have shown in the past. I also know that some of you will say that it is too early to discuss financial incentives or for me to stand here to voice my concerns. Maybe. But I want to make sure that all of you hear the people's opposition loud and clear before it is too late. The mayor, with all due respect, I'm afraid that the Bears has made him and maybe some of you a little bit googly-eyed. The prospect of luring the Bears here, as a fan, I can understand. However, he indicated that he will do anything to make sure that the Bears come to Arlington Heights. He further said that he intends to offer public money only, quote, as a last resort. Well, that's like me going into a car dealership announcing that I will definitely buy a certain car, and that while I don't want to overpay, I'm willing to pay up to $20,000 over MSRP. Well, you know exactly what that signaling leads to. It's the done deal. The Bears have made no secret of the fact that they will ask for public funds. They stated it in the announcement they made just a couple of days ago. And the fact that they intend to distinguish between the stadium itself and the development of the surrounding area makes no difference. Let me be clear. No public money is needed to develop this particular site. We're not talking about a brownfield. We're not talking about an eyesore that's been sitting vacant for decades. We're talking about prime real estate that offers plenty of development opportunities for the Bears or for anybody else.
Mr. Bauer, if you please wrap it up. The 3
I will
minutes.
do so. So I urge you to publicly and irrevocably declare that the Village of Arlington Heights will not offer any financial incentives for the Bears, or I will have no choice but to work hard and to join a group such as the Americans for Prosperity to force the passage of an ordinance to that effect. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Bauer. Mr. Reckloss, do you have any comments at this time?
No, I think it's premature to talk about that at this point, and I would just leave it at that.
Thank you. Next, I call on Brian Costin. I'm sorry, Trustee Bertucci.
The mayor's not here, and I just want to clarify and not leave it out there. Randy, I do not recall Mayor Hayes ever saying that he will do anything to bring the Bears here. Do you recall anything like that? I
do not.
Okay. I just want to make sure that you and I were on the same page. So,
Thank you, Trustee Bertucci. And Mr. Costa, before you start, I know you have, you also want to speak on items on the agenda. So we can, I can call on you at those times for those particular items. So,
Yes.
So 3 minutes on the first one.
Thank you, President Pro Tem LaBedz and the Village Board. My name is Brian Costin. I'm the Deputy State Director for Americans for Prosperity, Illinois. And I'm here to present a petition that was signed by over 650 Arlington Heights residents to support an anti-corporate welfare ordinance being adopted by this Village Board. The key part of that ordinance is as follows. The Village of Arlington Heights is prohibited from offering or extending any financial incentive to any business or corporation to operate in the village. The definitions for the use of that ordinance is incentive means any economic, financial benefit or other incentives not included but limited to those authorized underneath the property tax code, the county's code, the Illinois Municipal Code, including but not limited to the Tax Increment Allocation Redevelopment Act or any other provision of law authorizing abatements, credits, loans, or tax or fee reductions. Recently, we did a poll of Arlington Heights residents, 300 Arlington Heights residents. We're not opposed to the Bears coming to Arlington Heights. And the village, the people of Arlington Heights agree. 72% of Arlington Heights residents want the Bears to come to Arlington Heights. But when it comes to the issue Do you approve or disapprove of the Village of Arlington Heights giving taxpayer dollars to the Chicago Bears to help build their stadium? 68% of residents disapproved of that. We would like to make a longer presentation to the village board about this when we believe it's supposed to be heard next village board meeting on the 19th. Citing the diversity, equity, and inclusion initiative of Arlington Heights, it says providing a fair and equitable access and delivery of all government services to all community members. So we would like to ask for equal time to the Chicago Bears, however much time that they will have allotted to presenting their case for the development and their case for taxpayer incentives. We would like to include that. Getting back to the issue of why this ordinance is important, over and over again, we've seen stadium deals and corporate welfare projects turn sour for taxpayers across Illinois. Just ask the residents of Bridgeview. When they built the stadium there, over a period of 10 years, their property taxes tripled. Their bond rating went from AAA to junk rating. Remember the residents of Hoffman Estates. They had to take over the loan for that property, and they pay more for the stadium than they do on roads and public works. Also look at Soldier Field, the Bears themselves. There's a deal that's gone very bad that has the Bears name all over it. They said it was going to be magnificent and beautiful for the people of Chicago. They only pay $6.5 million when the bond on that stadium cost almost $50 million a year. That is a deal that's gone sour. We want to present our ordinance to the village board, and just to bring the message that we've gathered from over 650 residents across this community in support of our anti-corporate welfare ordinance, and we urge the village board to support this ordinance at the next village board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Manager Ecklaus, should it go to, or Mr. Passman, who should receive?
I would say it should be submitted to the clerk as the official repository of village records.
Okay, thank you. If you'd please give it to our village clerk.
Thank you.
Thank you. Those are all the blue cards I have. Mr. Ecklaus, please. In just a minute.
You know, if I could, on that topic, so,
Please.
you know, from obviously, we have not seen the petition, and that'll have to be reviewed and determined, what is the appropriate course with that. But on the topic of the ordinance itself as written, that's been circulated, from a staff perspective, I would like to make a couple of observations.
Please.
The ordinance proposed by Americans for Prosperity, Mr. Costin, aims to prevent the village of Arlington Heights from engaging in any financial incentives to any business for any reason. This is, we feel, a very extreme proposition. It would literally cripple the village's ability to engage in any economic development throughout our entire community, not just any specific to any particular site, throughout the entire community, and would have prevented many successful redevelopment and development projects that from happening had it been in place in the past. The village's award-winning downtown, our popular restaurants, active shopping corridors, Arlington al fresco, and many other projects simply would not be possible without engaging in the types of successful public-private partnerships that the petition specifically aims to prevent. And this proposed ordinance would permanently put the village at a competitive disadvantage from all other Chicagoland towns for any and all economic development efforts going forward. This would eliminate that ability for us to engage in these activities, but would not prevent any of our neighbors from engaging in these activities. And so, as a business, we've always been a business-friendly community. The village has always supported the success of Arlington Heights shops, restaurants, boutiques, businesses. And an ordinance of this type of extreme nature, we feel, would put the health of our business community in jeopardy. And so I just wanted to put that out there, again, from the staff perspective.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Thank you. And Melissa, thank you for your patience. Just identify yourself, please.
Melissa Kerr speaking. Do you have any information about when we will receive the 2021 second installment of the Cook County property tax bill?
I have no information. Mayor, Village Manager Recklaus, do you?
We don't. Again, that's something that's determined by the county, and so we would encourage you to reach your elected officials at the county level, your county commissioners, and they would be the appropriate body to field such questions.
Also, about the dogs, there's also another place there, Dogtopia. They might be adding to the dog barking too.
Thank you for your comments. You have,
I had more comments on the Bear Stadium.
I do have some blue, if it has to do with the,
Economic impact study is what
oh, that's coming. And you'll be able to speak then. I have the blue card for that, so you'll be able to speak at that time and be more appropriate. Thank you. So we will move on to old business, and first we'll have a report of the Committee of the Whole meeting of September 6, 2022. And the first item was the appointment of Owen Smith to the Youth Commission, and I call on, I had it right here, Trustee Schwingbeck.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I would move, as I did earlier this evening, to concur in the mayor's appointment of Owen Smith for appointment to the Youth Commission with a term ending April 30th, 2023.
Second.
Thank you. That was Trustee Schwingbeck made the motion, and Trustee Canty did the second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Nope. The motion carries. Mr. Smith, if you would come to the podium, please, and get sworn in. And the village clerk, Ms. Hume, will do the swearing in because I'm not authorized to do so. So if you'd please raise your right hand.
Repeat after me. I, and state your name,
I, Owen Smith,
having been appointed
to the Youth Commission
in the Village of Arlington Heights,
in the Village of Arlington Heights,
County of Cook,
in the County of Cook,
do solemnly swear and affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
And we know you will, so congratulations. Forward, I'd like to present a village logo pin that we give to all members of commissions, and all of us elected officials wear them with pride, so please wear it. And then you can go over to see the village clerk to sign the oath. Thanks. Fix that. All right. So now we'll turn to the next item from the Committee of the Whole meeting of this evening, and that's the consideration of recommending to the Liquor Commissioner the issuance of a Class B and Class T liquor license to VJU Inc., doing business as Elm Liquor, located at Northwest Highway. And I do want to mention that it is a change of ownership in this manner. It's not a new business, but a change of ownership, and I call on Trustee Bertucci.
I will move, as I did earlier this evening, to recommend that the Village Board of Trustees recommend to the Liquor Commissioner the issuance of a Class B and Class T liquor license to VJU Inc., DBA Elm Liquor, located at 906 West Northwest Highway.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Congratulations, Mr. Patel. You you will be getting your liquor license. You can touch base. You don't need to come forward. You just get to hear us approve it. So, so congratulations. We know you'll do very well in that location. And I believe you can reach out to Ms. McCullough tomorrow about when to pick up the liquor license. So thank you very much. We wish you well. Thank you. Then we will move on to the next order of business from earlier this evening, and I call on Trustee Canty.
Thank you, President Pro Tem. I recommend that the Village Board of Trustees recommend to the Liquor Commissioner the issuance of a Class A liquor license to SMAH Investments, Inc., doing business as Javier's Sabor Mexicano and Agave Bar located at 8 West Minor.
Second.
Thank you. There we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Congratulations, Mr. Flores. This, again, is a change in ownership. So we wish you well as you follow in Javier's footsteps, and we look forward to many years of success for you at that location and much good Mexican food and margaritas. So congratulations. And you too can reach out to Ms. Nicolle for tomorrow about the liquor license. So thank you very much. All right, so we will now move on to the consent agenda. And I'd like to know if any trustees wish to recuse themselves from an item on the consent agenda. No, hearing none. If any trustee wants an item to be removed from the consent agenda for separate consideration. Hearing none. If any member of the audience wishes an item to be removed from the consent agenda. Mr. Costin? Consent B, okay, that will be removed.
I'm sorry, Madam President Pro Tem,
sorry.
there are a few different consent Bs.
Oh, that's correct.
Consent legal, there's consent legal B. So that's the,
Tax increment financing.
okay. Just wanted that clarification.
Thank you, I approve that, I appreciate that because my agenda froze. All right, so that will be removed. Is asked for a motion to approve the remaining.
Move approval.
Second.
So that was moved by Trustee Tinaglia and seconded by Trustee Schwingbeck. And then any further discussion? No? Roll call, please.
Trustee Tinaglia?
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck?
Yes.
Trustee Bertucci?
Yes.
Trustee Canty?
Yes.
Trustee Grasse?
Yes.
President Pro Tem LaBedz?
Yes. Thank you. And we move on. Just a moment, please. Now I know why Mayor Hayes has a paper agenda. And we move on to approval of bids. And the first item is, oh wait, excuse me, before we do that, I was thinking that it might be appropriate to move our new business forward and allow for the Raising Cane's sign variation, and I'd entertain a motion.
I move to move new business A up in the agenda to come before approval of bids.
Second.
Thank you. That was moved by Trustee Canty and seconded by Trustee Tinaglia. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. We'll go ahead and take the petitioner for Raising Cane's, if you're here. Oh, Trustee.
Just before we get started on that, Trustee LaBedz, Pro Tem, with the item that was taken off the agenda for the consent agenda, for those in the audience and maybe even the gentleman that took it off the agenda, do we want to state where we will pick that up at?
Thank you.
Trustee Bertucci, typically when you take an item off the consent legal, it would go to the normal legal section of the agenda, or if it was, that's typically how we've done it.
Okay.
And so
And
we would proceed with it going after new business and after approval of bids.
Thanks, Randy, and I've observed that in the past. I just wanted to give clarification to the audience.
Thank you, Trustee Bertucci. Appreciate that. So with that, the Raising Cane's petitioner, if you'd come forward. And if you'd first tell us your name and then tell us what you're planning to do.
Good evening. My name is Lou Aaron Foster with Raising Cane's, and I did submit a perfect. Do I use this?
So you can use the slide advancer there, press the right arrow, and it should advance the slides.
Very good, thank you. So I am here to request variances on a piece of artwork and a material finish for an architectural feature on our building. Attached here, you can see our existing site plan, which indicates the two locations of the proposed artwork and architectural finish on our front elevation. The first is our artwork, the One Love Heart. The piece of art is comprised of metal pieces, the symbols of a salmon, disco ball, number one, a hard hat, and a dog artistically tell the story and journey in our culture. Our founder, Todd Graves, worked tirelessly to earn cash to build his dream. He worked as a boiler maker in an oil refinery, and from there he moved to Alaska to commercially fish for sockeye salmon. The disco ball stands for our fun and cool crew and culture, while the number one symbolizes our one love, quality chicken finger meals. Finally, the dog, our namesake, Raising Cane, the yellow lab. Second is our iconic architectural tower. I would like to request a variance to clad our tower in a reclaimed car hood material, creating a warm and welcoming entrance, emphasizing our commitment to our one love. Both items are important pieces to our unique brand and highlights our great crew members and our cool culture. Raising Cane's is genuine and real and fun-loving, and our signature brand items are recognized by our customers across the U.S. Here is a photo of an era retail business with their well-known architectural green tower. This tower is seen across many of their locations. And here you can see another well-known retailer with their widely recognized yellow architectural arched feature. Here are some photos of some existing Raising Cane's with our One Love Heart piece. We like to place the town on the piece of artwork so the community knows that is there, Raising Cane's. And finally, a photo of an existing Raising Cane's with the architectural tower clad in the red reclaimed car hood.
Okay.
For any questions?
All right, thank you. Mr. Perkins, if you'd like to present the staff report.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. And first, we're very glad that Raising Cane's has built their facility in Arlington Heights and employing lots of local residents from the region and the community. And I will say it was through the assistance of some TIF funds for infrastructure in Town and Country Shopping Center that helped this project and the soon-to-be grocer that will be opening. They are requesting a number of variations for wall signs. They do currently have an existing wall sign and an existing ground sign. I'll skip through some of these images. So this is the existing building as it sits today. You can see the existing wall sign, and you can see the beige color with the kind of one as the architectural feature. And this is their proposal for the one. We view this as an attention-getting device. It is designed to attract customers off Palatine Road, the same as the wall sign with the characters that the petitioner referenced. And these are a little more details of those two components. And I'll skip by the existing signs. So all in total, they would be requesting 212 square feet of signage on their building. So we did take a look at this in comparison with other fast casual restaurants in the area and variations that have been granted. And you can see at the bottom, Raising Cane's at 212 is significantly greater than all of the others. The others are, the highest ones are in the average of 85 to, 95 approximately square feet. So the staff recommendation was approval of the wall sign and denial of the one sign, so they would have comparable amount of square footage. We did look at photo imaging of similar types of restaurants that were on that list that I just referenced. We also took a look at existing Raising Cane's that have been built around the country, some of which do not have the red cladding on the one, and some have that wall sign that has since been changed to a second Raising Cane's sign. This is a sign of other buildings that do have the cladding, and they have additional signage on top of that. So the Design Commission looked at this. They held their meeting a few weeks back. They recommended approval of the two sign variations with some caveats. One being that the number one, they felt that that could be considered a sign or art, but they wanted to make it clear that they would not consider other requests for variations in the future, in addition to what's recommended. And then the sign that's on the wall, on the brick component, they wanted to make sure that that stayed as a kind of the decorative sign and was not changed out to this kind of sign here, where they have changed that from a more of a graphic to a pure sign that designates Raising Cane's. So that was the Design Commission's recommendation, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. So you understand the Design Commission's recommendations?
Yes.
Thank you. I mean, I think I would agree with those myself, and I would entertain any comments. Trustee Tinaglia.
Thank you. Charles, I'm so glad to see the Design Commission review this in the manner that they did. Do you have any reservations about the language that was written here?
No, I do not.
You and your corporate family are in agreement with the fact that if this were approved tonight, it would stay the way that you're presenting it tonight and not like some of the other stores?
Yes, understood.
Okay. I think it's a really creative, fun graphic, and I think it's something that in many ways other restaurants ought to try to capture as well. And so I'm in favor of these kinds of things, especially when they're not just blatant signs. It's more of artwork, as you put it, and I agree with it. I don't like what happened in the other places. Those examples that Charles put out, I think those are important to keep in mind. So you'll have my vote as long as you agree to stay that way.
Thank you. Anyone else? Nope.
I just wanted to concur with Trustee Tinaglia's points, and I also agree with the Design Commission's recommendations.
Thank you. Anyone from the audience wishing to speak on this matter? Nope. I'd entertain a motion then.
I don't have a motion in front of me here.
Concurring with the...
I would move to concur with the Design Commission's recommendation for all three items, plus the two recommendations at the bottom here that talk about remaining as presented tonight.
Second.
Oh, okay.
Trustee Bertucci?
Yeah, if you're ready for discussion.
Sure.
Okay, because what I just want to do was, I thought the staff was recommending something be denied.
Trustee Bertucci, we did. Staff had recommended denial of the number 1 and approval of the wall sign. And as a result of the discussion at Design Commission, they added these additional conditions to try to make sure that the signs didn't end up like other examples that we've seen throughout the country.
Okay. Okay. So that's where the compromise, so to speak, came in.
Correct.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Go ahead.
That's fine. Thank you. Anyone else? Trustee Schwingbeck.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Charles, without that number 1, what would the square footage be if it was just that sign?
I believe around 89 square feet. I can look it up in just 1 second. Approximately 85 square feet it would be.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We ready to vote? And this would be a voice vote, correct?
It can be a voice vote, yes.
Okay, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Nope. Okay, it passes. Thank you. And this will come back?
Yeah, the final ordinance will be on your next agenda.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Passman. All right. So we will go back to the approval of bids. And I call on Mr. Recklaus.
Thank you, President Pro Tem LaBedz. That's a mouthful.
Yes.
You know, as was alluded to earlier in the meeting, there have been unsuccessful stadium projects that have been done. There have been projects that have been done that have not worked out for the host community. However, there have also been ones that have worked out very well for a host community, and you know, from an economic standpoint, from a community standpoint, and on a fiscal standpoint. We, if we're going to be reviewing a potential stadium and sports entertainment project, we want to make sure that we're one of the ones that is successful. And in order to do that, we have to make sure we're basing any decisions that we may need to make on the best possible information. with an understanding of both best practices in the industry and worst practices, and learn from both, and to make sure that we're getting advice from knowledgeable, highly accomplished individuals that have done this type of work before. And hiring consultants is nothing new. We routinely hire consultants to help us with things that we don't routinely do, and entertaining a project of this type is certainly something that we haven't done. And so with that, our Director of Planning and Community Development, Charles Perkins, is going to be talking about two firms, or two teams, I should say, that we are recommending to be hired this evening to help us on this endeavor.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the first item that we're discussing is a recommendation to retain a consultant to assist the village in a fiscal, economic impact, and market analysis. And as Mr. Reckless mentioned, we have retained similar consultants in the past for such assignments, most recently for International Plaza. A few years ago, we retained a consultant to do almost the same thing, looking at the market, what uses were appropriate, and how we could redevelop that particular area. So we did issue a request for proposals in June of this year to consultants that specialize in fiscal, economic impact, and market analysis for these kind of facilities. They specialize in stadium, mixed-use, tourism type venues. We felt that with this project being 326 acres, it's prime real estate, whether it's the Chicago Bears or just a redevelopment of the property, we would be looking to retain consultants for financial and traffic, because it's such a unique, significant property, and this is no different. As everybody's aware, in early 2021, Churchill Downs announced the closure of the racetrack, and the racetrack has been a tourism venue for almost 100 years. It has a stadium there. It's been a huge amenity for Arlington Heights and the region, and redevelopment of that we hope will be the same. So in the summer of last year, we drafted some overlay zoning district standards just to set the tone for the type of redevelopment that we would like to see, and that was the very early precursor of anything happening on this property, and that was before we knew of the Chicago Bears' interest in the property. And then towards the end of September, as everybody knows, the Chicago Bears announced that they had a purchase and sale agreement for the property, and we've been undergoing analysis and research and trying to learn as much as we can about these kind of developments since then. And in June, we released a request for a proposal. And in your packet, there is a detail of those proposals and the scope of work. I'll just highlight a few of the early steps in the scope of work for this particular consultant. So step one would be to evaluate the preliminary plans and financial economic impact analysis that we're expecting to receive at some point in the future from the Chicago Bears organization. Our consultant would do a peer review at a high level, looking at the economic impact that was submitted, identifying any areas of concern or deficiencies, and assets and benefits, and then providing a high-level opinion on the financial feasibility and economic benefit and impacts upon the village, both positive or negative. Step two would be for the consultant to perform independent market analysis in addition to what the Chicago Bears consultant may be providing, looking at comparable stadium developments and entertainment districts, looking at mixed-use profiles and best practices, and importantly, looking at projection of what the village's annual ongoing operational projection impacts may be, and anticipated expenses, also outlining potential cost recovery structures to cover those potential costs. And then step three would be a financial analysis, looking at all of the project components and to make sure that the redevelopment resulted in a net positive fiscal impact to the village. So what does that mean? In other words, it means project generating revenue from this site exceeding public costs associated with it. And then there are other steps that involve ongoing consultancy. So we released a request for proposals to 8 firms that specialize in this kind of work. We received 4 proposals. The selection team of Mr. Reckless, Mr. Keeney, and myself reviewed them. We invited 2 firms for interview, and then we selected and are recommending Hunden Strategic Partners as the preferred team. All the teams were very well qualified. We just felt that they would best fit our need and were well respected in this particular market segment. They have also partnered with Steve Hammerly as a strategic partner, and they have partners from House Blackwell. They specialize in these kind of services and real estate, and they have worked on more than 1,000 projects in the past 25 years, with more than $20 billion in projects that have been built or currently underway. More recently, they've been working on an NBA district in Milwaukee and NFL and NHL deals in Virginia and Arizona. So we are recommending that the village board authorize the village manager to enter into an agreement with Hunden Strategic Partners for a financial, economic impact and market analysis for the proposed redevelopment of property formerly known as Arlington International Racecourse. Hunden Strategic Partners consultant fees would be approximately $118,000 for the first steps, plus ongoing consultancy at an hourly rate. It's further recommended that the consultant contract be funded from the escrow funds that were provided by the Chicago Bears Football Club and are held by the village, and also the village's Capital Projects Reserve Fund. And I'll be happy to, along with Mr. Reckless and Mr. Keeney, happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Charles. Trustee Tinaglia.
Thank you. So, Charles, let me just make sure I understand. I think I know the answer to this. Take the Bears out of this equation. 326 acres of land, lots of potential development happening there for any reason, for any kind of facility, any kind of building. Would you still recommend having a consultant like this?
Absolutely, yes. That would be in the village's best interest to have them augment our internal team. There's no question about that.
This is some belts and suspenders to help protect all of us here in Arlington Heights, getting wise advice from educated, really smart people in this particular realm.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, great. That's what I knew the answer was. I want to make sure everybody heard it. Thanks for doing the homework to get this done.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Tinaglia, for bringing that up. Anyone else? Trustee Schwingbeck.
Thank you. Randy, the question that I have is, and you mentioned earlier that we have hired consultants like this for other projects. What is the time frame with not only this one but the second one of accomplishing this? That initial study, I mean, we just did one not too long ago on the senior center, and I guess the reason why I'm asking is I'd like to know how long it takes. Are we don't know if that land sale is going to go through or not.
Correct.
Is it too early to start having them work on this now, or can we have them start working on it once we see the sale go through, if it's going to go through?
Generally speaking, the majority of the work that's going to be done is going to be happening if and when the land sale goes through. We wanted to get this teed up and ready so that we can be prepared. The first step that they're going to be taking is reviewing the transportation and parking and economic impact study that the Bears provide to us. And so we don't believe that type of review work can even if we got those studies tomorrow, we wouldn't be able to complete that work prior to the time frame in which the Bears would need to make a purchase decision. So realistically, aside from doing some laying the groundwork type stuff, we don't see them spending a whole lot of time and energy on this prior to that. I don't know if Charles or Hart, if you want to.
I do, if I can, add something,
Please.
Madam Pro Tem and Trustee Schwingbeck. The proposed contract, which is in your packet, does provide that the consultant is not to start the services until after they receive written direction to proceed. And that, to the manager's point, wanted to have these two particular consultants, a similar provision is in the next agreement that you'll consider. We wanted to have them lined up and ready to go so that we would not then be chasing and looking for someone when we got appropriate information. And to Trustee Tinaglia's point, whether that's true, whether it's the plans that were released today or something else. It was just it was an important piece to have ready, and we get to control when we actually tell them to get started.
So we'll get them in the pipeline, and we won't incur any costs until we see whether or not this property is going to.
That's correct.
Okay. All right.
The other point I'll make is that a portion of these costs will be incurred by the Chicago Bears, and this isn't a unique concept either. Very often, if we, for a review of a project, have to incur additional, review staff or whatever, we will charge that back to the applicant, and that's the same model. The Bears agreed to that model, so while these folks are working for us, we would charge the Chicago Bears for reimbursement for these services. And so if there was some reason for, timing or whatever that we felt we wanted to have them begin work before that close was final, we wouldn't necessarily be on the hook for that expense. But again, the decision to start work would be the village's and no one else's.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. That's an important piece. Thank you. Mr. Keeney.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention too that, the costs that are before the board tonight are costs that would be covered by the Chicago Bears. There might be additional costs, once you start negotiating with this developer or any other developer that might not be included, but these costs would be included within that Bears escrow.
Okay. Thank you very much for that clarification. Trustee Bertucci.
So I've read through all this. I appreciate staff's comments here tonight. So I'm just going to put it on the table. I'm going to go ahead and recommend that the village board authorize the village manager to enter into an agreement with Hudden Strategic Partners for a financial, economic impact, and a market analysis for the proposed redevelopment of the property formerly known as Arlington International Racecourse. Hudden Strategic Partners consultant fees would be approximately $118,000 plus ongoing consultancy at hourly rates. It's further recommended that the consultant contract be funded from the escrow funds provided by the Chicago Bears Football Club and the village's capital projects fund reserves.
Second.
Can I clarify that, if I may?
Yes.
You said recommend, Trustee Bertucci. I want to clarify. I think that was a there is a resolution and a contract in your packet. I think it was a resolution to approve. I'm sorry. I hope, and please confirm, was that a motion to approve the resolution?
Yes.
Okay. I want to clarify that. Thank you.
Yes.
And second.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. And then we'll go on to discussion. Trustee Canty?
I just want to also clarify that though the funds will be paid in part by the Chicago Bears, the fiduciary duty owed would be to the village, correct? So regardless of who pays the consultant.
We are, let me put it this way, we are directing the work. We are paying the consultant. We would just be requesting reimbursement and getting reimbursement from the Bears as the proposer or applicant. It's no different than, sometimes we'll do this as part of a building permit process or a zone, if we have additional plan reviewers that we have to hire for a project, they are our agents or our employees, depending on the case, and we just charge the entity back for them. So 100% they would be working for us, not for anyone else.
Thank you. And I just want to clarify, because I echo the concerns that have been raised here, and I think it's important that if we're going to be hearing a lot about a development, and I think we would do this anywhere, we want to make sure that we have our own uninterested people giving us the information that we need to understand anything that is going to be proposed. So, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, they work for us, not for the Bears or anybody else.
Right.
I think that's very important. I do have 2 blue cards on this item, and I call first on Max Ryan.
All right, first, I want to commend the board for your guys' transparency. Everything about the agenda and the proposals was very easy to find, so good work. Thank you. Second, I want to note that the proposal and the request for a proposal seems to be missing a huge part of what we need to be studying, and that is the economic impact for the Bears. Because they're obviously going to point at the good things for the village, but this seems to be good news for the village of Arlington Heights, great news for the Bears. So we need a study to explore their options if they have a viable third option. Study between here and Soldier Field. What is their projected profits if they stay in Soldier Field? What is their projected profits if they come here? Because from my perspective, they're going to have 20,000 extra tickets they get to sell every game because they can get a bigger stadium here. They're going to own the stadium, unlike Soldier Field, so they get all the revenue from every event that goes through there, every Super Bowl that comes through there. They're going to have all the revenue from the parking that they don't own in Chicago, all the retail and hotels. That's all going to be brand new revenue streams for the Bears that they don't currently have. So I think we need a study to have this all backed up and documented, so when they ask us for public funds and say we need some taxpayer money to make this work, we can point to the giant pile of money they're going to make if they come here and say, what are you talking about? You got plenty of money there to pay your taxes and you're still going to come out ahead. So I don't know if we can amend the RFP based on the funding structure. Maybe it's got to be a separate study. But I think that would put the taxpayers of Arlington Heights in the best possible position when it comes to negotiations. So.
Thank you.
Mr. Perkins, you want to comment on that scope issue?
Yes, so I mean there is components in the scope of work that talk about comparable stadium and entertainment, district case studies, and while it's not specifically called out, part of the equation that we will ask them to do is to look at the costs and the justification for whatever may be asked of the village. That goes part and parcel with what we'll be looking for.
If I could add to it, it's not. I think we will have the information you're looking for in a couple of different ways. One, in order, if they will, the Bears will have to be providing that type of information to us in terms of any type of incentive deal, like any other TIF project or any other project that we do ask anyone to justify any requests that they make. That is standard operating procedure. This team would be reviewing that and validating that with their knowledge of the industry to see if that's true. Does that make sense? What are your assumptions? So no, 100%. If the Bears end up making any type of request, financial request, public-private partnership request of the village, it absolutely is our job to understand why would that request be needed, and what would happen if that request were not fulfilled. Those are the types of questions we always ask whenever we have any type of incentive requested of us, is we go into details, and certainly for something of this magnitude we would be doing the same, and that's exactly one of the reasons why we brought on a team such as this to help us do that with the knowledge that they have in the industry, for sure.
Thank you. Trustee Tinaglia?
In Manager Reckhouse, there's another whole team that comes in as TIF consultants, right? Separate from these consultants, that if there was going to be a TIF request or some sort of a program like that set up, there are these other financial advisors that dig into the minutia of all those things, just as they would do for any other of the TIFs that we have here in town, correct?
I mean, I think it's, we're whether there's a TIF or what else, we don't know that yet.
No, right.
But I mean, I think part of what we're looking at with this firm, this team, is they would be able to understand how an NFL franchise makes money, how stadium deals generate money, and that's what their task would be in this. And then ancillary to that, if we needed additional help, we would seek that as well.
Yeah, I would imagine, yeah. Thank you.
Mr. Passman?
I just want to clarify, I think it's known, but just to make sure, there is no request for an incentive present for the board. This is simply to hire a consultant. There is no proposed TIF or anything else right now. These are, I mean, they may well come to fruition, but that's not before us tonight.
This is all hypothetical, and obviously the letter went out today, but we have not received any request from them in any way, shape, or form. But we want to be prepared to look at the numbers in any way that they come in.
Thank you. I think it is important to stress that there is nothing yet, and but also it is important for us to be prepared if and when that time comes. So I do think this is prudent. Anyone? Trustee Bertucci?
Just for clarification, I did find the resolution in the packet. Mr. Hassman, Mr. Passman. Would you like me to reread it directly from this?
No, I think
We're okay?
the resolution is there. I
Okay.
think, again,
Got it. Okay.
we went the step of preparing the resolution and including the agreement for these two items. I want to make clear that if it is your intent to approve the resolution, approve the agreement, I wanted that to be clear as part of the motion.
That was the intent.
Thank you.
Thank you. I know, Mr. Costin, you also have a blue card on this particular item.
Yes. I would ask the board to not consider this tonight for a number of reasons. I think that this, the memorandum that was put forward is both incomplete and goes way too far. It's way beyond just talking about an economic impact study. First of all, there's no public input process in regards to this study. A lot of times on the state and federal level, when you have something as big as this, experts can submit comments, can submit written testimony about the impacts of this and other deals like that in the past. People that are local, like Professor Robert Bade of Lake Forest College, he is a stadium subsidy expert, but also others as well. So in regards to TIF districts, and I really hope the board and the staff takes this into consideration, because earlier I heard a comment that getting rid of corporate welfare programs would put us at an economic disadvantage. I don't think that the staff is aware of the academic literature out there that says things like, communities using TIF districts in Chicagoland have a decrease in employment across all sectors, see a decrease in the number of establishments relative to those municipalities that did not use a TIF. Professors Richard Dye, David Merriam, published in the Journal of Urban Economics, cities that adopt TIF districts grow more slowly than those that don't. There is a tremendous amount of research out there saying that communities who use corporate welfare programs suffer. Corporate welfare is a curse, not a blessing. Furthermore, going further into the memorandum, this goes way further than what we've been talking about right here. And step 2, detailing deal structures and public sector financing mechanisms. Step 4, consultant must assist the village to negotiate deal points, including deal points relating to financing incentives, development components, state, county, and other public financing. This right here is saying that the village board is going to do a deal. Okay, are we ready to say that we're going to do a deal with the Chicago Bears? Because it's saying that this consultant is going to be negotiating that. This is extremely premature. The mayor mentioned that they would only do incentives as an absolute last resort. And now, before the Chicago Bears have even asked for anything, we're saying, we're going to do a deal. It's right here in writing. This is an unprecedented step that goes way beyond anything that's been discussed. This is, in my opinion, reckless. We shouldn't be spending $1 negotiating incentives when the taxpayers of Arlington Heights, through our polling, through our petition, have said they don't want any money going here. Let the Bears make the first offer in regards to these incentives. We shouldn't be dreaming up ways of giving away taxpayer dollars and hiring consultants to negotiate away millions, possibly hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars. This is extremely premature and also goes way too far. I strongly urge the board to reject this and revise this so that it's appropriate. And I would urge the board to reject this tonight. Last thing, the Chicago Bears, and this is a big, big warning flag. In the press release that they issued
Please wrap
today-
it up.
Sure. In the press release that they issued today, they said how wonderful the project is, how beneficial it's going to be for everyone. But then they said, we look forward to partnering with the various governmental bodies to secure additional funding and assistance needed to support the feasibility of the remainder of the development. They are saying that this development is not feasible without taxpayer subsidies. Why go into business with someone who says that they have a failing business plan? That is a recipe for
Thank you, Mr.
disaster for the
Costin.
people of Arlington Heights. Thank you.
Thank you. Manager Recklaus, do you comment?
nothing beyond what we've said. I mean, obviously, none of this work will happen without the direction of the village. Is normal with any scope of work. We want to understand any potential work that might be involved in this, and we price it out. We want to understand what each of the firms who are submitting proposals were going to cost, and so we had to have an anticipatory list of potential items. Obviously, the village, and we have a long track record of this, we aren't going to even be discussing that unless, any type of incentive or anything like that, unless, number one, the Bears can't or any other potential developer of the site can demonstrate that it won't happen without assistance, demonstrate to our satisfaction, and also that any project-generated revenues are sufficient to cover any and all costs, including the additional costs that the village would be incurring. And so it's just premature. Obviously, there are a number of public decisions that will need to be made as part of this project. There'll be a number of public meetings, and there will be a multitude of opportunities for the public, any members of the public, whether they're Arlington Heights residents or not, to provide input, feedback on the process. And so that goes without saying, because we're a public entity, and that's how we do business.
Thank you. Yes, that's true. Melissa?
Melissa Kerr speaking. Their investors and shareholders can cover the cost of entering the Arlington Heights market. And also, should there be limits on these contracts, like for an amount not to exceed X dollars? And I don't want to see a bill on my property tax bill to build this.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else in the audience? All right, we have a motion by Trustee Bertucci and a second by Trustee Tinaglia on the resolution. So is it?
Roll call vote's appropriate.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Bertucci?
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia?
Yes.
Trustee Canty?
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck?
Yes.
Trustee Grasse?
Yes.
President Pro Tem LaBedz?
Yes. Thank you. And now we'll move on to the approval of bids B, which is the item, the agreement with Sam Schwartz for the traffic and parking analysis. So I would turn it over to staff, please. Mr. Perkins?
All right, thank you. Back again. This will be a little shorter than the last time. I won't need to go into all the background and history. So similar to the last topic, traffic and parking is going to be a significant area of concern that needs to be addressed as we go through, again, with any developer on this property, 326 acres. So we did issue a request for proposals to traffic consultants that specialize in these type of large traffic generating developments that have peak use but also have ongoing daily use. And so we issued the request for proposals. Before I talk about the responses, I'll briefly go over the first couple of steps in the scope of work. Again, it's highlighted in your packet. Step one is similar to the financial one. It's a peer review. We want the consultant that is representing the village with their expertise to peer review the traffic and parking analysis that's provided by the Chicago Bears Football Club. We'd like them to provide their findings, identifying areas of concern, deficiencies, assets or benefits, things that have been missing from the study based on their expertise, providing a high level of opinion on the feasibility of accommodating the traffic in and out of the property, and what potential off-site improvements would be needed that would be beneficial for the project, but also beneficial for the region. So there could be off-site improvements that would be needed that would benefit not just this property, but others. We would be looking for them to review multimodal transportation systems, Metro Pace, rideshare, things of that nature, and then their opinion on impacts on the surrounding roadway network, and that includes our neighbors, Palatine and Royal Meadows and others. Step two, we'd be looking for the consultant to perform independent traffic and parking research and analysis, looking at comparable stadium locations, looking at expected, parking and traffic demand for these kind of mixed uses and what kind of tourism could be expected. Also looking at on and off-site parking options that we know will be part of the equation. and then independently validating the various capacity ratios that we expect will be in the study. How many persons per vehicle, what percentage of rideshare, what percentage would be using other public transportation. And then future steps would be ongoing consultancy, working with the village and the Chicago Bears organization and their teams, and then state, county, and other organizations for potential off-site improvements that might be necessary. So we released the RFP to 21 firms that specialize in this kind of traffic and parking and sports stadium mixed-use development. We received 3 proposals. We had a different team that evaluated this, including Public Works, Engineering, and my department. We narrowed the process down and interviewed 2 firms, and then we, after reference checks, recommending the consulting team of Sam Schwartz and Graff Engineering. Sam Schwartz has a firm of over 140 personnel. They have 8 offices around the country, including one in Chicago. Some of their representative work includes experiences with event management and traffic control for MetLife Stadium, Wrigley Field, Barclays Center, and then peer review of the Oakland A's ballpark. They've also been involved in some local projects, including the City of Waukegan's casino proposal and the Obama Presidential Center. They've been involved with New York Giants and New York Knicks, and the representative from Graff Engineering has been involved with a lot of local projects at the IDOT level, and is actually also an Arlington Heights resident. So the staff team recommends to the board authorizing the manager to enter into an agreement with Sam Schwartz for approximately $85,116 for the first 2 steps, and then consulting at an hourly rate after that. And that would be funded from the escrow funds provided by the Chicago Bears Football Club and the village's capital project fund reserves. And just as earlier, there's a resolution that goes along with this. And just to answer Trustee Schwingbeck's question, again, another reason on why to do this now. When we get these plans and studies, we don't really want to spend 3 months going through the process to find the right consultant to work with us. We want to get engaged in reviewing that right away, so we don't lose any time and miss any opportunities. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Perkins. Any questions from the trustees? Trustee Tinaglia.
Of course I have a question.
That's great.
So unlike the last question I had, this one's a little different because it's a little bit more commonplace. We have countless projects that come through here where we have traffic analysis done and parking analysis done, and we as staff review them sometimes. Sometimes we have a consulting firm review it, and it sometimes pits one firm's opinion against another opinion, and at the end of the day, we as a team figure it all out and decide what's appropriate and what's not. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
And so in this case, the same question then, it's a big enough project that we would absolutely do this regardless of if it was the Lions and the Tigers or the Bears.
That's correct. Yeah, it would be, in the village's best interest to have our consultants on board, to protect our interests and those of our neighbors.
Yeah, it's protection for all of us, for everyone in this room, everyone on TV. It's protecting us in a smart way. And the funds that are being used are used out of the escrow account from this petitioner. So there's no tax dollars being spent from residents here on this. That's all I had.
Thank you. Any other? Trustee Bertucci.
I appreciate everything staff's doing and my fellow trustees, but I just want to definitely say that I think this is an important part of what we need to do for development, as Trustee Tinaglia said, however we develop this property, because I think it's going to have one of the more, how we handle this will impact more positively or negatively on our residents more than anything else, maybe even more so than any financial impact from the other consultants, so to speak. So So I appreciate that, and I will continue to look forward to seeing and understanding any results from the traffic consultants. So I just wanted to again stress and observe and acknowledge the importance of this piece of it.
Thank you, Trustee Bertucci. I would say that one of the biggest comments I hear from people are their concerns about the traffic that might be generated from this, no matter what the development was. So I agree this is an important step. Trustee Canty?
I thank you, President Pro Tem, because I was going to say the same thing. I hear this a lot from people in the community. They are very concerned about traffic and congestion with the development of this property, regardless of who is doing the developing and what the development is. And we hear that a lot with other, even smaller developments in our community. This is a thing that our residents care about. And personally, this is visceral for me. I live about 1.5 miles from this property on the same road. So regardless of my position on this board, I myself am worried about this. And I want to make sure that we've got people that are keeping the village's interests and the residents of this village at heart when they are examining the potential impacts, because that is one of the most critical questions. I say all the time, I only have 2 questions. Who's paying for this, and how are we moving the people around? And until I start seeing answers to those, I am agnostic as to a lot of things. So I am glad to see that we are putting people on the side of the village that will give us clean and unfettered advice as to potential impacts so that we can protect the interests of our residents. I do have one question regarding this, because it's not just Arlington Heights roadways that would be impacted. So are there other communities and other agencies like IDOT, like the county, that are looking to engage consultants, or will we be working with them in the future, and maybe it's too early to know that?
You know, I think there likely will be other, some of the other stakeholders will be looking, they'll all be looking at this independently from their own perspectives. We haven't heard anything definitively of anyone specifically doing a study or doing that, but I really would not be surprised. But part of this process is we are engaging with those stakeholders to make sure we understand their perspectives and needs and for this project. And again, regardless whether it's the Lions, Tigers, or Bears going there, that's an important component of this, is that communication and coordination.
I think that's huge. I mean, I think we've talked a lot about traffic and parking on this board, at least since I was elected, from very, very small projects to very large ones. So I think this is critical for us to be evaluating.
I would second that, Trustee Canty. Yes, in the years I've served on this board and the Plan Commission prior to that, yes, traffic and parking are top of mind for most people. So thank you for that. Anyone else on the board? Anyone in the audience would like to comment? Mr. Costin.
Thank you. Sorry, I'll be really brief and quick. I agree with this, that you should do this. I just wanted to add a little piece of information. We did polling on the traffic issue. 47.8% of Arlington Heights residents are concerned. 47.5% are not concerned. So more people are concerned about the corporate welfare, but I just thought you might like that data point. And there's one question of clarification. So it was talked about that the Chicago Bears were paying for this study and the last study, but in the village board packet, it said the consultant contract be funded from escrow funds provided by the Chicago Bears Football Club and the village's capital project funds reserve. So I just wanted to get clarification on that, if that's the case, that it is both the taxpayers and the Bears that are paying for this.
Do you want me to answer that, Randy? Yep. The reason why we put both down there is how this actually works. It goes through our capital projects fund. That's where we pay for it because it's our consultant. But as Manager Reckloff said earlier, it will get reimbursed through the escrow account. So that's why we put both on there. But it's going to be paid by us and reimbursed by the Bears.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Excuse me, Melissa, there was someone else in the audience who would like to speak first. Janice?
Did I miss, who's doing the environmental impact study?
Can you identify yourself
I'm sorry,
by
yeah,
name, please?
I'm Janice Ferris. I'm wondering who's doing the environmental impact study on this. So, I mean, at best, we're probably not going to be idle-free Arlington anymore. I mean, when it comes to
Do you want to comment on that, Charles, in terms of the process?
Well, we're, as everybody's aware, we're looking at the traffic, parking, and financial at this point. The Bears team have other consultants that may be and probably are doing on-site environmental, doing their due diligence on any underground stormwater detention, all of those kind of things. We're not, looking at, if you're referring to, congestion or ozone elements from traffic, that's not part of the scope that we have.
If I could, though, further, this project, like any project, is going to be subject to regulations from a whole host of other agencies. So, for example, the Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago has very high requirements for stormwater management. The village has stormwater management requirements. Obviously, there's nothing that they could do that would be in violation of any IEPA or IPA or EPA standards in terms of this regard. And so, the different issue buckets that the village is responsible for are some of the things like the utilities, the traffic, looking at economic, development impacts. Those are some of the things that are within our scope of responsibility as a local government. But obviously, they're going to be subject to all kinds of agency reviews from other agencies as well for something of this nature. And so those may be other entities. But in terms of overall quality of life, these are things that we have to contemplate as well. And I think it's a fair point.
Would you please come forward?
Yeah, the people who are watching at home can't hear you unless you're on the microphone, and also it isn't recorded.
So just the particular residential neighborhoods that'll be very close
Sure.
by. So like all the idling buses and cars.
Sure. No, I mean, it's something that will have to be looked at, and as we've said, essentially any use of this site is likely to be far more intense than the racetrack, and that's something that we're going to have to keep in mind. I mean, the racetrack site is a very large site, and a lot of it is largely vacant land. It was never developed with a whole lot of infrastructure. And so there's a lot of question marks for anyone to develop this property. And obviously the impacts are things that we're going to have to look at very closely. And there's going to be a lot of opportunities for public input along the way. But it's a good question.
Thank you. Melissa?
Melissa Kerr speaking. The staff time will be paid by the property tax money or by the Bears? The pay and benefits for the village staff.
Mr. Recklaus.
Obviously, when we're talking about existing staff, obviously the existing staff is paid for by the current taxpayers of Arlington Heights. If you're talking about, potentially if there's additional staff that needs to be hired someday as a result of the development, the goal is for all of any additional costs that the village may incur to be paid for by project-generated revenues that come from the project.
And may I suggest a trial? They can use the current grandstand and just build a football field there and try it out for a season or a couple of games and see how it works. That would be a cheaper way than building a whole brand-new stadium.
Thank you, Melissa. Anyone else would like to speak on this? Mr. Ryan?
Yeah, Max Ryan again. I just hope something that the traffic study does take into account is, I think it was part of the village board's agenda to kind of advance walkability and bikeability, and I'm 100% behind that. Excuse me, I hope the traffic study takes into account, if you make it easy to cross Northwest Highway via a pedestrian or bike bridge, which would be awesome, or Euclid, then all of the neighbors around there would be able to sell parking in the front yards, driveways, and make a few $100 every weekend. And that would, take a lot of pressure off of parking, getting all the way into the stadium. People could pull off early. If you've ever been to a Packers game, it happens everywhere. People are holding up cardboard signs. So I hope that's taken into account so they don't need quite as much space just taken up with parking, and it would be a benefit to the residents. So that's it.
Great, thank you. I would entertain a motion about the resolution. Trustee Schwingbeck?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I would move that we approve a resolution approving an agreement with Sam Schwartz Consulting LLC of Chicago, Illinois for vehicular traffic and parking analytical services for the redevelopment of the Arlington International Racecourse property.
Second.
Okay, moved by Trustee Schwingbeck and seconded by Trustee Grasse. This was a roll call.
Trustee Schwingbeck?
Yes.
Trustee Grasse?
Yes.
Trustee Bertucci?
Yes.
Trustee Tinaglia?
Yes.
Trustee Canty?
Yes.
President Pro Tem LaBedz?
Yes. Thank you. Now we will move on to legal, and that will be a discussion of consent legal B that was removed from the consent agenda. And Mr. Costin, would you like to state why you wanted this removed?
Yes. I don't know if this picks me up when I'm really tall, so I'm at disadvantage. I just want to know if like the people on the camera can hear me okay. I don't know if they can. It's so far away. Anyways, Chipotle is worth $45 billion as of today. AT&T is worth $120 billion market valuation as of today. I'd like to point out a policy that exists in the Village Code already, and that is, of course, Article 5, Section 29501 of Required Improvements. And it says that all roads, alleys, curbs, gutters, drainage facilities, sidewalks, water supply systems, fire hydrants, sanitary sewer systems, storm sewer systems, street lighting systems, street signs, landscaping, and original utility distribution lines are, quote, the owner or the subdivider of the land proposed to be subdivided shall enter into an agreement with the village where the owner and the subdivider agree to install such requirement improvements at their own expense. And so now we're having a situation where the costs are split 50-50. If we have the stadium development and the infrastructure costs are 50-50, that's hundreds of millions of dollars potentially that could be money that should have been going to schools via TIF district. So there's enormous consequences with the policy like this. And I'll state that when this ordinance, this original ordinance, was adopted by this village board just 2 years ago, Mr. Reckless said, we're adopting these latest standard codes with an eye towards enforceability, fairness, clarity for end users. You can't have fairness if different rules apply to different people. It also goes against the diversity, equity, and inclusion ordinance of the village that says that you're supposed to treat people equitably. This is a massive corporation, massive corporations that are going to be benefiting from this expenditure. But who loses? I calculated who would lose from this $170,000 of taxpayer money. The village of Arlington Heights, if they didn't have a TIF district and wasn't spending this money, would get $20,780. Arlington Heights Library, over $8,000. School District 25, $62,000. 214, $44,000. Harper, $7,000. The Park District in Arlington Heights, $8,764. TIF districts divert money away from other public purposes. And in this case, they're going to be going to corporations with a combined net worth of $160 billion. It also goes against your own policies that the people on this board said would make it more fair in Arlington Heights in regards to development. That's why you should reject this, and that's also why you should enact the anti-corporate welfare ordinance. So the village board is not picking winners and losers in the economy, and instead are treating everyone equally before the law. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comment?
I'm going to let Mr. Perkins just present this item.
Please.
And then, we're happy to answer any questions that the board may have or members of the public or elsewhere.
Thank you. This is in the TIF district up on Rand Road, and anyone who's been along that area and is familiar with South Point Shopping Center will know its dire struggles and the challenges that it's had, and that some vacant storefronts, and it's been one of our problem shopping centers. And as I mentioned, it is in a TIF district. The agreement that's recommended is not with Chipotle, it's with the developer that's looking to develop the outlot. We did retain SB Friedman, a TIF and financial consultant, to analyze the project pro forma provided by the developer. And they did identify some excessive site costs associated with such a small outlot development. It's about $1.4 million in site costs alone, just for a small retail development. The request initially was $600,000. We did not support that. We felt that that was not justified, although SB Friedman did indicate that even at that request, the unleveraged internal rate of return and the leveraged internal rate of return was below industry standards, but that the developer might accept a lower rate of return because they have a credit tenant that would guarantee that rent during the life of their ownership of the property. So we basically looked at the infrastructure needs and the excessive detention improvements that are behind the shopping center, and felt that providing up to 50% or a maximum of $170,000 towards that infrastructure improvement is a TIF eligible cost. There is currently $3,050,000 in the TIF fund. We do have a $1.3 million agreement to get the anchor tenant in there. So even paying for that and this, there are still funds available for the village to do the corridor improvements that we have in our long-term plan. This TIF district does expire in 2028, so we just have a few more years of opportunity to try to turn around South Point Shopping Center. And those are the reasons why staff recommended approval of this particular request. And also one other thing, the TIF, the 170,000 and the 3 million in the fund wouldn't be there if the village hadn't have created a TIF in the first place. It did meet all the blighted standards, and this is a result of being able to redevelop Town and Country Shopping Center and get that additional increment. Actually, South Point, their increment has gone down.
Thank you, Mr. Perkins. Trustee Bertucci.
I would also like to comment, my office is directly across the street from South Point, and I've been there for 15 plus years. And we've, I look at this every day. And to say it's, everything you say, Charles, is true. But I also want to comment on what my clients say when they come into my office often. Many of them being Arlington Heights residents, and they say, when is somebody going to do something about across the street? Some of them can't even remember anymore what the name of that shopping center was, but some of them do. And some will even be smart enough to say, isn't there something the village can do to incentivize, development there and that type of thing? So there is some, a lot, I shouldn't say some, there's a lot of support from the area businesses in that area. I know many of them and talk to many of them, and also from the residents in that area to provide helps, incentives to bring South Point back around. So I just wanted to make that comment because I hear it and see it every day. So thanks, Charles and Randy and the rest of you guys for getting South Point going.
Thank you, Trustee Bertucci. And Trustee Tinaglia?
Thank you. So, it's difficult, I think, for a lot of folks to get their arms around this whole idea. Until you really get an understanding of it, it's sometimes doesn't seem to make quite the sense that it should. But I live this every day of my life with my business, and I have lived in Arlington Heights virtually all my life. And I know what our downtown used to look like and behave like. And Charles, you've been at the front line of this thing from the very, very beginning. It's amazing what happens when smart people use smart money to do smart things. You know, you can design really well and build really well and make something wonderful happen, or you can design really bad or build really bad and you've got garbage. The same goes for anything that you do with money when it comes to redevelopment. It's not Chipotle that this money is going to. It's not to any big multi-billion-dollar corporation. This money is going to a simple entrepreneur who's bought the shopping center and is going to try to make something good happen for all of us in this town, whether it's jobs or tax dollars or anything like that, activity. And if you don't know that commercial development is taxed, isn't it about 2 times what residential property tax is? I can tell you that I own a small office building in town, and it's similar size to my home, and it's twice, if not more, real estate taxes than I pay on my home. Our businesses have to succeed for our residents to feel less pain when the tax bill shows up at their door. And when we have opportunities like this to help some entrepreneur make something wonderful happen for all the people that see this area day after day after day after day, it behooves us to get. They're not billions of dollars, they're not even millions of dollars. This is a reasonable incentive to take care of stormwater management on this site, right? And what else, Charles, besides stormwater? What were the 2 big issues?
Well, that's all. That's the only area that per the agreement, the funds would go towards.
That's it. So it's just the one.
Right. And they're investing $5.6 million in the project.
Of their own money.
Of their own money, correct.
Yeah. So to me, this is a waste of time even talking about. The money is there for exactly this kind of a reason. We're not lining anybody's wealthy pockets with bigger dollars. This is about doing the right thing. And if it were not for TIFs, and if it were not for certain kinds of incentives that, again, well-educated, well-informed, smart development happens. And I would agree with Mr. Costa. There are probably countless examples of where things fall apart and go the wrong way. And it's because of poor planning, poor educated decisions that are made in those particular areas or those examples. I'm proud to say in this town, for all of my 60 years, the decision makers before all of us here, and now us too, are doing smart things with smart money. And I'm hopeful that the folks watching and the folks that have elected all of us here to do these wonderful things are appreciative of what we do. Just look at our downtown, look at the library, look at the park district, look at the school district, look at what we have here. How lucky and blessed are we? So that's how I feel about this. I am ready to vote.
Thank you, Trustee Tinaglia. I've not lived here quite as long as you, but I certainly have lived here long enough to see what TIFs have done for our redevelopment in the downtown and in other areas. And I also have lived here long enough to remember when South Point was a thriving shopping center and would frequent it myself. And sad to say, it's been a long time ago, so this needs to happen. Trustee Bertucci.
I just wanted to help my colleague, Trustee Tinaglia, on the numbers. Residential property owners, the assessed value equals 10% of the fair market value. For most commercial property owners, the assessed value is 25%.
So it's more than double.
Yes.
So it behooves us in these circumstances.
Thank you. Thank you both. Anyone from the audience?
Why did you stop going shopping there?
Because the store is closed.
Okay, so not enough customers to shop there. So the developers shouldn't have paid so much. They should have paid less to the right amount to put into the property. Instead of having the TIF districts, the developer should have paid less for the property so they'd have enough money to develop it the way he thought the market could use it. So when he bought the property, that means whoever sold it probably considered that TIF and got the extra money off the top of that sale. That's why TIFs are crazy.
Thank you. Any other comments? I would entertain a recommendation.
I would like to move that we,
Excuse me.
I'm sorry?
He's done, yeah. No, go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Okay.
A motion is appropriate this time. I think that's what Trustee.
Yeah, I was
Tinaglia-
just going to go back to the consent agenda and move to approve consent, which one was it?
Legal B.
Consent Legal B as it is presented tonight.
Second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor? Oh, no, this is a roll call. I'm sorry.
Trustee Tinaglia?
Yes.
Trustee Bertucci?
Yes.
Trustee Grasse?
Yes.
Trustee Canty?
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck?
Yes.
President Pro Tem LaBedz?
Yes. Thank you. We'll move on to the report of the village manager.
Nothing this evening.
Thank you. There are no appointments today, so I would move on to petitions and communications. And
I would make a request that the board enter closed session per ILCS 120/2C21. Discussion of minutes lawfully closed, whether for the purpose of approval of the minutes or the semi-annual review of the minutes, and 5 ILCS 120/2C11 litigation when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of the village has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the board finds that an action is probable or imminent.
So moved.
Second.
thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Tinaglia?
Yes.
Trustee Schwingbeck?
Yes.
Trustee Canty?
Yes.
Trustee Grasse?
Yes.
Trustee Bertucci?
Yes.
President Pro Tem LaBedz?
Yes. Thank you. We'll be adjourning into closed session, and then we will not be reporting out after the closed session. Thank you all for joining us this evening, and have a good rest of your evening.